Okay, welcome to 9.5, Systems of Linear Equations in More Than Two Variables. Okay, so basically we're going to do matrices here, and this is a good indicator of what you should do first. So we're going to find where we can get the very first entry to be a 1. That's really what this is meaning. And how we do that, we multiply and divide by stuff and add rows together. And we can rearrange rows and stuff. So we're going to do that here right off the bat, because this is really only if you know what you're doing does this make sense. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, and this is real quickly what you can use to put in your calculator. It tells you what to do, and you should do some of these, but you also have to do this by hand. That's what we're going to work on today. All right, so we notice that we have a 1 here already. That's what we want. So we're going to leave that there. This is row 1, row 2, and row 3 here. These are columns up here, okay? So we're going to write this as 1, -2, -3, and -1. Now, this has a 1 here, so I'm going to put row 3 in for row 2. So 1, 3, -2, and 13, and 2, 1, 1, and 6. So what we want to do now is we want to work our way down and make these zeros, and then we go to the next one, and we're going to go diagonally here, okay? So we want this one to become a 0, and that will be it. If these two are 0 in this position, then this letter right here, Z, this is Z equals whatever this is. Right now it's equal to 6, but it has all these other numbers with it. So we want to go in this direction first. So we need to make this a 0. So we're going to take row 1 minus row 2. All right, so we still have row 1, 1, -2, -3, -1. Okay, and then row 1 minus row 2 gives me 1 minus 1 is 0. -2 minus 3 is -5. -3 minus a -2 is -1. And -1 minus 13 is -14. So lots of places to make an error. And then we have, what we want to do next is I could try -2 times row 1 plus row 3. So -2 times 1 is -2, plus 2 is 0. So I get my 0 right there, and then we got to keep going. -2 times -2 is +4, plus 1 is 5. And then -2 times -3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And again, -2 times -1 is 2, plus 6 is 8. All right, now we got to get this to be a 0 and this to be a 1. So easy to get that as 0. Let's go ahead and do row 2 plus row 3. So row 1's the same. Row 2 so far is the same. And row 2 plus row 3, we get 0 plus 0 is 0. -5 plus 5 is 0. -1 plus 7 is 6. -14 plus 8 is -6. And technically, you're needing to make this whole row 1's to be in row echelon form, but we can solve it at this point. So here's what we have. You have x minus 2y minus 3z equals -1, and then you have -5y minus z equals -14, and then you have 6z equals -6. All right, so that's good enough because now we know what z is. Divide by 6, we get -1. So then we plug that into here, so -5y minus a -1 equals -14, and you solve that. So that's change. So we're going to subtract 1. You get -5y equals -15. When you divide off the -5, you get 3. So now we plug both of those into the correct positions. So x minus 2 times y minus 3 times z equals -1. So x minus 6 plus 3 equals -1, or x minus 3 equals -1. Add 3, and x equals 2. So what do we have? 2, 3, and -1. That's our final answer. Okay, we just keep going. 1, 3, -1, -3. And 3, -1, 2, and 1, and 2, -1, 1, and -1. All right, so let's start. Let's do row, let's see. We need this to be a 0 and that to be a 0. So let's do -3, row 1 plus row 2. All right, so row 1 stays the same. 1, 3, -1, -3. So -3 times 1 is -3, plus 3 is 0. And -3 times 3 is -9, plus a -1 is -10. -3 times -1 is +3, plus 2 is 5. And -3 times -3 is +9, plus 1 is 10. We can also do -2 times row 1 plus row 3. And we get -2 times 1 is -2, plus 2 is 0. -2 times 3 is -6, plus -1 is -7. -2 times a -1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. -2 times -3 is 6, plus a -1 is 5. Now, we need to get this to be a 1 and that a 0. So we'll go ahead and do all of row echelon form on this one. So what we want to do is we go down, and then we need to make that a 1 first. Okay, so if we divide, we take and do -1/10 times row 2. So first, row 1 is still the same. Row 2, 0 divided by anything is 0. -10 times -1/10 is +1. And 5 divided by -10 is -1/2. 10 divided by -10 is -1. Okay, and then we need the -7 to be a 0. So we'll just write everything down here. So we'll take and do row 7 times row 2 plus row 3. Again, row 1 is the same. Row 2 is the same. Now we take 7 times row 2. 0 plus 0 is still 0. 7 times 1 is 7, plus -7 is 0. So we got 2 zeros there. 7 times -1/2 is -3.5, plus 3 is 0.5. -3.5 plus 3 is -0.5, or -1/2 again. Okay, let's write it as -1/2. Okay, and then we have 7 times -1 is -7, plus 5. -7 plus 5 is -2. And then we need to make this a 1. So if we multiply, let's see, multiply it by, not 1/2, but 3/2. No, 2. Let's see, what we're going to multiply by 2. Multiply by -2. So we're going to take 2 times row 3, -2 times row 3. So that's all, those are zeros, and -2 times a -1/2 is +1. And -2 times -2 is 4. So let's rewrite all of this. 1, 3, -1, -3. 0, 1, -1/2, -1, 0, 0. -2 times -1/2 is +1. -2 times -2 is +4. And there we have x, y, and z with 1s. So z is 4. Plug it in to y minus 1/2 of 4. Okay. Equals -1. So half of 4 is 2. Equals -1. Add 2, we get 1. And x plus 3 times y minus 1 times z equals -3. So x plus 3 minus 4 equals -3. X minus 1 equals -3. Add 1, and x equals -2. So our answer should be -2, 1, and 4. Okay, so I notice this is a 0 here, so we're going to replace that here in a minute. And this is a 1, so let's interchange row 1 and row 2. And also, well, let's do that first. So what do we have here? You have 1, -2, 2, and 0. Row 2 is now 5, 2, -1, and -7. And row 3 is 0, 3, 1, and 17. All right, well, let's do -5 times row 1 plus row 2. Okay, so we get, again, 1, -2, 2, 0. -5 times 1 is -5 plus 5 is 0. 10 plus 2 is 12. -10 plus a -1 is -11. And 0 plus -7 is -7. Okay, here we go. So now what are we going to do? Well, this needs to be a 1. So divide everything by 12, or what could we do? Well, let's go ahead and make this a 0 here. So let's do row 2 minus 4 times row 3. Okay, so we still have 1, -2, 2, 0, 0, 12, -11, -7. So row 2, 0 plus 0, 0. 12 minus 4 times 3 is 12, so 12 minus 12 is 0. So we have 0, 0 there. Now, -11 minus 4 is -15. And -7 minus 4 times 17, 40 and 20 is 68. -7 minus 68 is -75. Okay? So again, we could get these to be 1s, which is really not a problem. Let's see here. X minus 2y plus 2z equals 0. And then we have 12y minus 11z equals -7. And then -15z equals -75. So if we divide off the -15, z equals 5. If z equals 5, then 11 times 5 is 55. So we add 55 to the right, and we get 48 equals 12y. Divide by 12, y equals 4. And then x minus 2 times y plus 2 times z equals 0. X minus 8 plus 10 equals 0. So x plus 2 equals 0. So x equals -2. -2, 4, and 5 would be your answer. Okay, so here we have different numbers here. So what I think we should do is try to make one of these a 1. We're going to have fractions eventually, so we could probably just divide by 4, or we can add some things together. So notice you have a 5 and a 4 in the row 1 and row row 1 and row 3. So if I take row 3 minus row 1 and replace row 1, so 5 minus 4 is 1, okay. -4 minus a -1, so here's what we're doing, -4 minus a -1, that's -4 plus 1 then, so it'd be -3. Then you have this 0 here, -3, it'd be -3. And we have -9 minus 6, which is -15. Okay, and then we still have -8, 3, -5, -6, 5, -4, 0, and -9. Okay, so now what do we want to do? Let's start from there. So we will go 8 times row 1 plus row 2. Okay, so what do we get? So 8 plus -8, write your first row down here. 8 plus -8 is 0. What I'm doing, again, is 8 times -3 is -24 plus 3. So -24 plus 3 is -21. and negative 24 plus negative 5 is negative 29, and 8 times 15, 80, and 40 is 120, negative 120, and negative 126. And then also, what we'll do is negative 5 times row 1 plus row 3. And what do we get? We will get negative 5 plus 5 is 0, and then you keep going all the way across. So that's 0. Negative 5 times negative 3 is 15, minus 4 is 11, and positive 15 plus 0 is 15, and 5 times 15 is 75, plus negative 9. 75 minus 9 is 66, sorry. Okay, so now what do we got to do? We got to get this to be a 1, and this to be a 0, and that to be a 1. All right, so first things first. How do we get that to be a 1? Okay, so now we can do row 2 and row 3 if we go up here and do, let's see, row 1 is the same. And let's keep row 3 the same at the moment. Now, what are we going to do here? Let's do 2 times row 3 plus row 2. So 0 plus 0 is 0. And then 22 plus negative 21 is 1. 30 plus negative 29 is 1. And 132 plus a negative 126 is 6. All right, that looks a little nicer. Now we can do something to row 3 by doing negative 11 row 2 plus row 3. So everything else stays the same. And so that's 0. Negative 11 plus 11 is 0. Negative 11 plus 15 is 4. And negative 66 and 66 is 0. Okay, so now we have enough to write this down. X minus 3y minus 3z is equal to negative 15. Okay, and then we have y plus z equals 6, and then 4z equals 0. So z is 0, and y plus 0 equals 6, so y is 6. And then so x minus 3y minus 3z equals negative 15. What is that? So those are your y and your z's. So x minus 18 equals negative 15. Add 18 and x equals 3. So we have 3, 6, 0 as our answer. And now we go to number 5. So I'm going to write this over here. I'm going to change row 2 with row 1. Okay, so let's just rewrite that. So we have 1, 3, negative 2, 4. Okay, and we have 2, 6, negative 4, 1, 2, 1, negative 3, negative 7. All right, so now what are we going to do? Let's do negative 2 times row 1 plus row 2, and negative 2 times row 1 plus row 3. So 1, 3, negative 2, 4. So negative 2 times row 1 plus row 2. That's 0. Negative 6 and 6 is 0. Positive 4 and negative 4 is 0. And negative 8 plus 1 is negative 7. And then we have negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. And 4 plus negative 3 is 1. And then negative 8 plus negative 7 is negative 15. All right. So now what do we have here? That's crazy what we're seeing. So I'm going to switch row 2 with row 3. We're going to keep going until we see what the deal is here. And hopefully you see it. So now I need this to be a 1, and there's no way to make it a 1 unless I take negative 1/5 times row 2. There's row 1. Now row 2. Negative 1/5 times 5 is positive 1. That's negative 1/5. And negative 15 divided by negative 5 is 3. And we still have this weird thing down here. Well, first of all, let's look at this. 0 equals negative 7. That can't be. So there is no solution for this problem. So that's what you needed to see. You have an x, you have a y, you have a z. So 0 plus 0 plus 0 equals negative 7. That can't be. So there's no solution. So that's what no solution looks like. Number 6, we have 1, 3, negative 5. 2, negative 1, 1, and negative 3. Negative 6, 3, negative 3, and 4. All right, so what are we going to do? Let's do, we already have a 1 in the first spot, so negative 2 times row 1 plus row 2, and then 6 times row 1 plus row 3. So row 1, and now what do we get for row 2? That'd be 0. Negative 2 times 3 is, this is what I'm doing, negative 2 times 3 is negative 6 plus a negative 1. So negative 6 plus a negative 1 is negative 7. Positive 6 plus 1 is 7. And positive 10 plus a negative 3 is 7. All right, and then row 1, 6 plus negative 6 is 0. 18 plus 3 is 21. Negative 18 minus 3 is negative 21. And negative 30 plus 4 is negative 26. All right, so I'm going to take negative 1/7 times row 2. And I get 0, positive 1, negative 1, negative 1. Because we wanted a 1 there anyway. And then, let's see here. 0, 21, negative 21, negative 26. So we need to make this a 0. So how do we do that? Negative 21 times row 2 plus row 3. So 1, 3, negative 5. 0, 1, negative 1, negative 1. Now what do we get? Negative 21 plus 21 is 0. 0, 0. And then we have positive 21 plus negative 21 is 0. And then we get positive 21 plus negative 26 is negative 5. And again, there is no solution.